Hey guys, this is an update video on the NFL side project I was working on. I've been making updates to it offline and things like that, but I finally got the time to make an update video. And like I said, recently I've been making updates to it, and I kind of revamped the whole Power BI section because at last year or a couple years ago when I was working on this project, um, I kind of got burnt out towards the end and with Power BI, and I just wanted to throw something together. But this time around, I took some time to, kind of really thoughtfully and like clean up the report or the dashboard I had for the NFL project. So there's one update or a couple of updates I want to make before we hit the Power BI section. Um, Unfortunately, I'm not able to scrape data from Pro Football Reference, and that was a huge site for me to scrape data from because that's basically where I got all of the stats from. So passing stats, rushing stats, kicking stats as well. So recently they implemented something where if you try to request or try to perform a pull request too many times in a certain amount of minutes, your IP or your basically your IP I guess gets banned for a certain amount of time, so you can't really make pull requests. So I guess they were running into an issue where people were web scraping from their sites or pulling data from their site as well, and it just got to a point where it just overloaded the website, and they took action into um, limiting the amount of requests you can make in a certain time. This is exactly what I need to look for. All right, so you can see that they currently are going to block people who send requests when they send more than 20 requests in a minute. This is like really regardless of any type of request you make. And so my scripts, they've been failing recently, and I only have data up to 2022 NFL season week 8. But we do have historical data dating back all the way up to 2010. That data I don't drop at all. I just keep it in my database table, and it just lives there forever. So that's a bit of an update on the Pro Football Reference site. Kind of sucks that I'm not able to scrape from the site no more because I still look at this report sometimes. And especially now that I made an update to it and I can't, really use it like that anymore, it kind of sucks. But that's that. So let's go on to the Power BI section. And if you remember last time, it's really been a while. If you remember last time, my dashboard or this whole report, um, it just when I go back when I look back at this, and this is what I like to do with some of my projects. I'll go back and look at it and try and see ways that I can improve and like try and improve upon things. And I was looking through this report, and I look at it on my phone as well. And from some of the jobs I've worked and some of the jobs I work now, like um, one of the key things is just really being, kind of clean and concise and thoughtful with some of the visualizations you put on a particular page. And so, like, as I said before, as I was going through this report, a lot of the visualization, there was just too much going on, and I just really wanted to try and clean that up. And as I mentioned earlier, that at this point in the project, when I really sat down and created this, and this is taking some time to load, when I sat down and created this, I just kind of just brushed it through the end. You can see like some of these visuals, they're not bad, but it could be a lot better. And hopefully, what I did with this new one or this new version is a lot more better and a lot more cleaner. So it's not loading. My computer is kind of slow. This computer is on its last legs. So um, let me exit out of this, guys. All right, so now we've come to our new revamp project, and you can see um, the bookmarks or the pages are named different. So before, I think I had about 15 pages, and after I got through with this second go around, or really the final go around, I ended up with 17 pages. A lot of rework was done when it came to the stats And so we're gonna see that very shortly here. So right now I'm on the Power BI service, and just like in the desktop version, you are able to click the bookmark and head. Okay, here we go. All right, so like I said, we still have the bookmarks where you can click to it, and it'll take you where you could click on any button here, and it'll take you to the corresponding page. Now, when I was building this in the Power BI desktop, I didn't have this option here to like easily select the pages vertically. Power BI is just horizontal, and then you have to scroll. So this is why I added it, and it's also a good feature too, because you're not gonna have this if you're looking at the phone version of this. So that's that. So let's wait for this page to load. All right. So we're looking at the Miami Dolphins now, and the last time this data, now every like I said, like I mentioned earlier, the main things that are affected are the Pro Football Reference stats, but this table here is not going to be affected because this table gets pulled from a different source. And so I do want to note that the last time this project was ran was kind of a while ago, because I had my computer off and it wasn't running the scripts, and so the data is kind of lagging behind. But you see, the last time that this was ran, the Dolphins were 8-5, and some things I ran recently just to have the update for, and so like you can see the news should be updated to December 29th, 2022. But yeah, you can see if you go back and compare it to the first Power BI report I did, it was a lot on this screen, but I kind of just, trimmed it down a lot and created more pages to be a lot more precise. So we're looking at the Dolphins. We have the stand-ins, and you can also select multiple teams. This is one of the biggest things I added, where you're able to show filters, clear the filters, or hide the filters. So I'm gonna get to that a little bit later, but I want to go over this page here. So we have around the NFL, basically the news in the NFL for the particular team, or if you're looking at all of the teams, or whichever specific team you're looking at. Then we have injuries and suspensions. So you can see all the injuries and suspensions we have. Pretty self-explanatory. Transactions, these are any sign-ins or anything that really happened in the NFL that the website Spot Rack uses. So you see the last thing that happened was December 20th. They signed Lester Cotton to the practice squad. We also have the home games, and we have the away games, and it's split because it was very difficult, and I don't think it's possible in Power BI to have the home games and away game on one table, just due to how like the data was structured and everything. So that was that. So now let's get back to these buttons here, these new things I implemented: the filters, the clear filters, and hide filters. The filters, now if you click that, it's gonna bring up a page, kind of like something you would see if you were shopping online for a website and you wanted to, filter options or filter certain products. It'll bring up a page and it'll give you multiple options. So this was the thought process behind this as well. So currently I have it selected on the Miami Dolphins, but if we do select all, and there's two options on getting out of this page. And we want to look at 2022. I don't think those standards are affected by 2022, but yes, those other pages are. So let's say if we wanted to look at everyone in the AFC East for the year 2022, everything that happened in 2022. Let's give that some time to load. Okay, so we have everyone in 2022. So there's two ways of getting out of this page. You could click on the open area that don't have the team logo, and it'll hide the page. You can clear the filters, which resets everything and puts you back to where the default page was when I created this report. You could also hide the filters, which is also the other way of like removing this page and seeing the selection you made. So if I were to click on this side here, you see my mouse pointer turns into the little hand. If I click that, the page goes away. So that was one big addition for me, because on the previous report, I had the filters on the page itself when it was just taking up way too much space. But you can see here that we filtered for the AFC East in the 2022 season, and you see that everything that's happening now, all the news and everything, and so this page is a lot more concise and clearer. So let's go back. It's kind of easier just to look at this and just click it, but you get the gist of the idea of like everything. And the thought process behind all of this when I was going in and recreating it was just that, you know, when I reminded myself when I looked at, you know, some statistical websites like Pro Football Reference or ESPN.com or CBS, they have their data structured in a certain way, and I kind of wanted to follow that format so it would be a lot more cleaner and of course easier to read, and we're going to see that upcoming soon. But the next page, depth chart, before this was the team website and the depth chart combined, but now it's just the depth chart itself. And you can see here that filter selection we made on the first page actually takes effect in all of the other pages that have the slicers synced to it. So let's go back to the Miami Dolphins. So we click anywhere in that open area again. It hides itself, and so you can see that at this point in time, I'm not sure when the depth chart was last ran, but it looks like it's been run recently, but not too recent. So somewhere around week 14, because we have this note here from the depth chart. So yes, so you can see the depth chart. We have our position, then we have the first string, all the way up to the 13th string. And this page I think kind of deserves to be on its own, especially when you're looking at the depth chart. That's probably really the only information you want to see on there. So that's really it. Let's go to game results. I believe I did a little bit of cleanup on this. There was some data issue or Power BI data type issue with the scores kind of being duplicated and rolled up into one, but everything here looks good. This is still, we're focusing on Dolphins, and you have the winner, and I had to split it up between the winner and the loser. So you have the winner on top and the games that the team lost on the bottom. You also have a link to the Pro Football Reference site for that particular game. All right. Next, we have the team website. This one's pretty good. I always like kind of using third-party visuals, especially this one. This one is very, very cool. And especially it helped out a lot because when I scraped the team website, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with it, but it came in pretty handy. Now, the thing about this is that I would only recommend having it on one team. If you select more than one team, then the visualization is going to try and load all of those teams, and it's going to break the visual. So because we only selected the Miami Dolphins, it loads incorrectly. And so when I view this in the Power BI service on a computer, it works just fine. But on a phone, I get taken to the actual browser. So if I have an iPhone, I get taken to Safari if I click any of these links. But you can see here, this is a fully functioning website within Power BI. I don't think you can watch media on it, but it's still a pretty unique and interesting feature to add to this report here. And so, like, if you wanted to look at the team website or wanted to do something on there, you definitely can and figure out information. Let's see, maybe we could possibly watch a video on there. I highly doubt it. No, because this video is playing, but the video player is blank. If we want to look at another team, we definitely can. If we want to look at, let's say, the Tennessee Titans, and then we click off. See here, we have the Tennessee Titans, and this is their team website. They just recently lost against the Dallas Cowboys. But let's go back to the Miami Dolphins. As you can see on this page, I have clear filters removed. That's an option on just about every other page, but because I only want one team for one website at a time, I just had to remove that filter, because if you clear everything, you're gonna select all the teams, and that's not gonna be too good. Alright, so for our stats here, there might be a little bit inaccuracy here, but because again, with the Pro Football Reference website, I can't pull that data anymore, and so some things kind of get mixed up. So we're looking at the 2022 season, and I believe this is all the way up to week 8 of the season. And so, again, just wanted to try and make everything a little bit more concise, a lot more intentional. So you can see we have team passing, total yards, and turnovers, and everything is really, I really converted everything into a matrix table, because that's kind of how I viewed it when I looked at sites like ESPN or CBS Sports. It was kind of like that. And so this table here, at this time, Tua was 5-1, but there's some data issues where, like, I believe this happens in Excel, where they're trying to auto detect the data type, and so it gets pulled in as a record. You see Teddy Bridgewater is 0-1, but his record doesn't come out as a date. So we have all of these games here. And then we have the stats. And then we have individual stats, and then we have individual stats yards per game. So kind of like an average. Let's go to passing stats visualize. So with each of these pages, like passing, rushing, and kicking, they have their statistical page, and then they have a visualization page. Now the visualization page isn't anything too crazy, and so it's kind of very simple. It's just a couple cards of like, who is the passing leader, passing yards leader, passing touchdown leader, interception leader, and top QBR. Now, because we're only looking at Dolphins, there's not a lot of data here, but if we were to look at, let's say, all of the NFL, if we were to look at all of the NFL, you see at this point in time, Joe Burrow was the passing yards leader with 2,329 yards. Mahomes with 20 passing touchdowns already, and Matt Ryan is leading the league in interceptions. And so here, top QBR, they had to have a minimum of 300 pass attempts. This is a filter I applied in Power BI. And so we have a breakdown of the passing yards leader, and I kind of like this visual because it kind of represents a football field, and it's very simple. It's probably a little bit more I could have done, but I think it's fine for now. And then we have a scatter plot, and I like it because it kind of represents a football field as well. And the x-axis is again the passing attempts, how many passing attempts they've had, and in correlation to the passing yards. So you can see here, this is Tom Brady, so has one of the highest passing attempts in the league, and of course he's going to have a lot of passing yards. There's really no huge outlier here. I mean, you can tell simply from this graph that, the more passing attempts you have, the more passing yards you're going to have as well. And so there's a strong correlation between that. So let's look at the rushing and receiving. This again, and like I said, when I looked at sites like ESPN and CBS, this is kind of how the table look. And you see, we have the year. So if you're gonna select a year for the filter, you have the precise year you're looking at, and then we have the players. We have the player names, their picture, the games, and all their stats. This is sorted by the rushing yards, and so at this time, Nick Chubb is just going off in the league, and so he had like 841 yards. I guess around week 8, and you can scroll here. Now this, like the first 3-4 columns of this matrix are locked. Well, not necessarily locked, but when you scroll over, they're not gonna move with the table, and so it's good because you could still scroll over and see the player stats, because there's a lot of stats when it comes to rushing, and so if you wanted to sort by scrimmage yards, excuse me, you could definitely do that, and you can see here that Saquon Barkley had 968, and basically, yeah, this is how you would view it. And then on the next page, it would be the rushing and receiving stats visualized. But this excludes wide receivers, because again, in the data set, I needed to kind of split up the wide receivers and everything and have them on their own page. And so more so like the same page or visualization page or visualized page that we had. We have cards, and then we have a couple of visuals here. So this one kind of changed it up. I wanted to see like which running backs out of all of the running backs, I guess, how you would read this chart. Which running backs had the most attempts in the league? And you see the Titans heavily rely upon Derrick Henry. They go as he go, right? Saquon Barkley is up next. I mean, it's some of that information I'm looking at here and you're looking at as well. It kind of gets validated because that when they talk about these guys in podcasts or sports debate shows, they're often mentioned as being that main guy for the team, and they do everything for the team. Here, rushing and receiving stats, only wide receivers and tight ends. And so, don't need to really pay too much attention to this. But I do want to point out that this is one of the data issues I had, and this would have took me a lot longer to try and fix, because now I'm getting into dimensional modeling, and this is an issue that occurs because we have Mike Williams, and there's going to be several players who have said the same name in football. So like Mike Williams is one of those guys, and so the joins and everything I made, they're working properly, but because Mike Williams doesn't have enough to differentiate between the different Mike Williams that have played in the football league, they all just kind of get clumped up as one, and they get put under this Chargers team. But I tried to minimize the impact or limit the amount of occurrences this happens, but it's some things I just really can't take away. So this is rushing and receiving, and then of course again we have the visualized page, and you see here now we're going with the bar chart, and you can see the receiving yards leaders. So AJ Brown, not sure why AJ Green is up there. I guess I don't have this one sorted by top 5, and I'll have to make that change. Usually this one should have been sorted by the top 5 highest receiving yards leader, but that's something I need to make a change, because it looks like it's kind of going off for the name, the first name. But of course, we go back to our scatter plot, so you can see some of the guys who have the x-axis is the receptions and the y-axis is the receiving yards. So some guys like Gabriel Davis, I think he's been injured sometimes, but you can see, or you can make an inference that when he catches the ball, it's going to be for a huge gain, or it's going to be for big yards, because he only has 16 receptions and 418 yards. Compared to everyone else, 15, the next closest one is Devontae Parker. It's like at like 321. And so this year, I feel like you could do a little bit more analysis. And I know I mentioned the first time I did this, this wasn't really for analysis. It was just like really looking for stats and like kind of just seeing how a player performed overall. So now let's move on to the defensive stats, and just basically the same thing. We have that, we have that matrix table with all the stats. Again, there's some duplicate names there, and that's just because, Power BI, I didn't tell Power BI enough on how to differentiate those names, so they kind of get duplicated. So you can see all the stats and everything we're keeping here: tackles combined, tackles assisted, tackle solo, tackle loss, and everything. And the filters are still going to work with this as well. So if you wanted to look at let's take a look at let's do this. Let's take a look at the NFC West. And then we can clear that. So now we have everyone who played in the NFC West, and you can see all of the stats for that 2022 season. So if we go to defensive stats visualized, now we're still on the NFC West, and there we go. We have the top 5 players in the NFC West that leads the league in tackles and then in interceptions as well. And of course we have our KPIs here. So that one's pretty simple. So a lot of these pages, it was more so rinse and repeat, but it did take some time to set up because, I basically had to revamp the whole thing. And I did the same thing here with the kicking stats. I kind of lumped the kicking stats broke it up into 2 tables. Broke it up into kickoffs, field goals, and punting. And then I also included kick and punt return stats. We also had that in our database as well. Or I also had it in my database as well. So there we go. We have, of course, we're gonna need a visualization page for it. Very simple again. We're looking at the field goals made leader and the punting yards leader in the league. Not sure why Benjamin is on there. I don't think he's. This player page still remains the same. If you basically search up any player. So if we wanted to look at, I think we could even look at retired players as well. So it's up to 2010. Let's look at someone, Chris Johnson. Might be multiple people named Chris Johnson, just one. Okay, so we do have 2. So if we wanted to look at Chris Johnson, he doesn't play in the league no more, but I do have it set up to where if you click on his name, it takes you to his Pro Football Reference page, and that goes for any and every player that has played from 2010 all the way up to 2022 up until this point in time. I don't think I have the rookies in here just yet, and that's a whole different process, but I can't really do that now because I got my rookies from Pro Football Reference. So you can see here you can search for the player, you can search for the college they went to. So if you wanted to look at everyone who went to Miami University, alright, so if we wanted to look at everyone that went to Miami University and played for them, you just come here, put it in, and then you can see all the players that have played for the University of Miami. So look at someone like Ed Reed. He's a DB. I don't know if that's his picture, but I'll have to remember it. Or if we wanted to, and also if we wanted to look at the quarterbacks. I don't have the quarterbacks on there. Not too many quarterbacks. Let's look at the wide receivers. So you can see here, and then you have this visualization here, which is also helpful. So now you're looking at all the University of Miami receivers. So these are the guys I have on hand on my list here. Travis Benjamin, Tommy Streeter, Stacey Coley. So these names look all familiar, dating earliest to 2010. So Braxton Berrios, newly entered guy in the NFL. He's been playing for some years, for a couple of years now. But we get taken to his Pro Football Reference page, and so that's this page. It's a very useful page. And then lastly, we have our notes. Some of the notes, or some things I wanted to point out. I didn't make no changes to the notes here, but that was really it. Ooh, my webcam went off. Sorry, I didn't realize my webcam went off. But hopefully, should be all good. But 1 second. I mean, that's fine. But that's basically it for this project. I mean, that's all the revamp work that I did. Took some time into it. Took a good amount of time to do, really, because the bookmarks and setting up the filters and everything, it's a very tedious task, and to do it repeatedly, it takes time, and then to rework the visualizations, and then my computer isn't the fastest. It definitely did take some time. Probably took me about a week or two to complete this whole thing, just like really steadily focusing on it. But I think this is the final version I want to go with. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you found it kind of informative, and if you have any questions, just let me know. I'll try to make this report available, so, and I'll try to make the database available as well through a backup. But again, thank you for watching, and hope you have a good day.